There are times in life when we stop chasing success and all we want is a little peace. Not to win over anyone, just to understand ourselves. Not for everything to go smoothly, just to have enough strength to make it through the times when it doesn't. If you're in one of those phases right now, then this video is for you. Stoic philosophy, something that might sound dry, distant, or ancient, can actually become a surprisingly close and comforting companion. Not to help you conquer everything, but to help you stay grounded, see things more clearly, and move more lightly through all the chaos and change. In this video, I want to share with you 10 Stoic lessons, not as a lecture, but more like a heart-to-heart talk between people who've been through things. You don't need to remember them all, just listen, and maybe take with you whatever brings a little peace to your soul. 1. Finding strength in the toughest moments. Stoic wisdom for real life. Ever laid awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling and wondering, how am I supposed to keep going tomorrow? I've been there. And I believe, maybe you have too. Those sleepless nights, not because of coffee or deadlines, but because something inside is quietly falling apart. A silent storm of pressure, of loss, or just that nameless kind of exhaustion that wears you down slowly. A friend of mine, he's over 40, a father, a husband, a hardworking man once told me, I'm not desperate. I just feel empty, like I'm still breathing, but something inside me ran out a long time ago. Ever felt that way? Moments like that, when life stops being a clear road and turns into a dark maze, that's when we need a light to guide us. And for me, that light was Stoic philosophy. Not some grand moral teaching from 2,000 years ago, but more like a quiet voice, real and raw, from people who lived, hurt, and kept going. Marcus Aurelius, a lonely emperor with all the power in the world, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just something to hang on a wall. That's something that can save you on those mornings when getting out of bed feels impossible. And if you're listening to me right now, maybe a part of your heart needs this reminder. You're not alone, and there's still strength inside you, even if it's just a tiny flicker. So let's keep going. Step by step, we'll walk through 10 Stoic lessons, not to become strong in a way that forces you to push through everything, but to stand steady, with calm, with clarity, and with the kind of quiet strength that life can't shake. Are you ready? 2. Cultivating gratitude. Have you noticed, the older we get, the easier it is to forget what we already have? We chase goals, plans, expectations, and then one evening in a well-lit room with the soft hum of the AC and a warm cup of tea in hand, suddenly we feel empty. Not because we're missing anything, but because it's been a long time since we truly looked at our life. I once worked with a woman in her 50s. She used to be a director, had everything people usually admire, but when her husband passed away suddenly from a stroke, everything fell apart. We talked for weeks. And one day she told me, "Ian, yesterday I cooked a simple meal, just for myself, and suddenly I felt grateful, just for still having the strength to cook. I never thought a single carrot, a bowl of plain rice could bring me to tears." Seneca once wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present moment without anxiety about the future." And I think maybe gratitude is the fastest way back to the present. Not to ignore what you're still missing, but to realize, even on your hardest days, even something small, is holding you up. Maybe it's a friend's laughter, a simple text, "Have you eaten?" Or just a dry morning so you can walk to work without getting soaked. Gratitude doesn't make life less harsh, but it does help you not fall apart because of the harshness. Because when we're grateful, we stop living only for what's next and start seeing that we're already living right now. And that is a gift. Can you think of something to be grateful for today? If you can, hold on to it. That's where you'll find yourself again. 3. Building inner strength. Life is like the sea, some days calm, some days stormy. But you know what? A ship doesn't sink because of the water around it. It sinks when water gets inside. We're the same. Life can throw everything at you, job loss, divorce, illness, betrayal, but what decides whether you fall apart isn't out there. It's in you. I once met a man in a therapy session, middle-aged. He said something I'll never forget. "I thought I was strong, but then my wife left, and I realized the strength I thought I had, it was just a social mask. Inside, I was completely empty." That sounds painful, but honestly, it was the first step toward healing. Because real inner strength isn't about looking okay in front of people. It's about what stays when you're alone. No one cheering you on, no one patting your back, no one coming to save you. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And he was right. Inner strength doesn't come from one big triumph over hardship. It comes from the tiny choices you make every single day. Do you face it or run from it? Do you forgive or cling to the hurt? Do you keep walking or quit halfway? Maybe no one sees what you've been through, but you know. And sometimes that's enough. Because in the end, what holds you up isn't a life that's smooth and easy. It's the invisible spine you've been building inside yourself, slowly, quietly, over all those years when no one was watching. Are you building that inner spine, little by little, day by day? For the power of patience. You wake up and make yourself a cup of coffee. The sky's still gray outside. The unfinished plans are still sitting quietly in your notebook. And once again, that same question pops into your head. When will things finally get better? Have you ever asked that? We live in an age where everything moves fast. Texts, deliveries, test results, even breakups can come in just a few words on a screen. And because of that, waiting has started to feel strange, uncomfortable, almost unbearable. But here's the truth. Some things in life just can't be rushed. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor surrounded by war and illness, once wrote, "Time is like a river, a violent current of events glimpsed and gone. Another comes, and that too will pass." He understood that everything has its own rhythm. Like a flower, you can't force it to bloom. All you can do is care for it, wait, and trust that one day it will open in its own time. Patience isn't giving up. It's the art of moving with time, not fighting it, not forcing it. It's when you keep walking, even if you can't see the destination. It's planting a seed without knowing exactly when it'll sprout. I've seen it in people who've lost so much, yet still stay kind. In entrepreneurs who failed again and again, but still believe. In a single mother walking a mile each day to take her child to school, just because she believes, one day my kid will have a better future. You see, patience isn't passive waiting. It's active trust, right in the middle of uncertainty. And sometimes that kind of patience is the strongest power a human being can have. So ask yourself, what are you waiting for in your life right now? And more importantly, do you have the patience to welcome it when it finally arrives? 5. Focus on what you can control. Some days it feels like everything's falling apart. One unexpected phone call changes your whole plan. One careless comment from someone keeps you awake all night. One small failure is enough to make you wonder, am I even in control of anything anymore? I've felt like that before, and I know many people have too. We try, we plan, we prepare, and then life just laughs and does its own thing. In the middle of that chaos, Stoic philosophy offers a piece of advice that sounds simple, almost too simple. Don't waste energy on things you can't control. Epictetus, a man who spent his youth as a slave, once said, "We cannot choose our circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Sounds easy, but actually living this, that takes real practice. I often say this to people in therapy. You can't control the rain, but you can choose to wear a raincoat, take a less flooded route, and stay calm. And life works the same way. You can't control whether someone stays in love with you, but you can choose not to abandon your self-worth out of fear of being left. You can't control if your company does layoffs, but you can choose to learn a new skill, update your resume, or simply hold on to your dignity. When you stop clinging to things outside your control, you feel lighter. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop fighting the winds and start steering your own sail. So today, ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now that really isn't mine to control? And then, let it go. That's not weakness. That's one of the first signs of real growth. 6. Turning adversity into strength. Picture this, a blacksmith standing in his old workshop. Each hammer strike falls on a glowing piece of metal. The fire blazes, sweat drips, and slowly, the raw metal begins to take shape, becoming sharper, stronger. No heat, no hammering, no sword. Life is the same. The challenges you're facing right now, they're the fire. They're the hammer. They're the shaping process. I once met a man in his 50s. He'd gone bankrupt twice, struggled with severe depression, and at one point, almost gave up completely. But the day I met him, he had just opened a small coffee shop. Nothing fancy, no big sign. but it was warm, peaceful. He poured me a hot cup of coffee, looked at me gently, and said, "I'm no longer the man I used to be, but maybe I've become the strongest and kindest version of myself." That line, it hit me like cold water in the middle of a desert, and I was reminded of what Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, just as labor strengthens the body." Adversity doesn't come to punish you, it comes to burn away the surface, so the steel underneath can finally be seen, even by you. I know, when you're right in the middle of a crisis, hearing "be strong" can feel empty. So I won't say that, I'll just whisper this: you're being forged, not to become harder, but to become stronger, deeper, and more real. You don't need to know exactly where you're going, you just need to keep walking, through the heat, through the hammering, and trust that you won't come out of this the same. You'll come out more grounded, more beautiful. So whatever challenge you're facing right now, can you see it? Not as a punishment, but as a forge. 7. Lifelong learning. There's something I've noticed when talking to people who've been through a lot in life. They're no longer in a rush to prove anything. They listen more, they ask more, they pause more. Not because they don't know things, but because they've come far enough to realize that wisdom isn't about knowing everything. It's about never stopping the process of learning. A retired CEO once told me over coffee, "I've learned many things in life, but the hardest lesson came late, learning to slow down and truly listen to myself." That made me think of Seneca, who wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Wisdom isn't a destination. There's no map, no finish line, no final reward. You learn from books, from random conversations, from the heartbreak at 37, and the quiet joy at 53 when your kid calls you just to say hi. You learn from being hurt and from learning how to forgive. You learn when to stop, not just when to push forward. A Stoic doesn't think of themselves as enlightened. They're simply a student every day, learning how to be a little more kind, a little more steady, and a little more true to themselves. And if you're still watching this video, I believe you're learning too. Not to be better than anyone else, but to understand yourself better. Because in the end, growth doesn't come from how old you are. It comes from how many times you've had the courage to face yourself honestly and start over if needed. So what have you learned about yourself today? Even just a small thing. 8. Embracing impermanence. Some mornings you wake up and feel like a stranger in your own life. The person who used to be by your side, now just a name in your contacts. The job that once lit a fire in you, now just a routine you drag yourself through. Joys that once felt so real, now feel like someone else's memories. Ever felt that way? I used to think some things would last forever, a relationship, a feeling, a phase of life that seemed endless. But time flows like a cold, silent river, and it carries everything away, eventually. Stoic philosophy offers a simple but deep reminder: everything is impermanent, and the more you resist that, the more you suffer. Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher-emperor who often found himself lost in thought, once wrote, "Treat everything as if it were something you could lose." Not to be pessimistic, but to appreciate more, to hold things lightly, and to live more honestly. I once sat by the bedside of a father who had lost his child. He didn't cry much, but he whispered, "If I had known our time together would be so short, I would have lived it differently." That sentence stayed with me, etched into my heart, a gentle yet powerful reminder. Everything will pass, the things you love, the things you fear, and because of that, live fully. Know that today's sadness will soften, anger will ease, longing will change its shape, and if you're in the middle of pain right now, trust this, it will pass. No season stays forever, no feeling is permanent, even you're changing, day by day. So instead of clinging, learn to let go. Instead of fearing loss, live with deep gratitude. Every moment you have is precious, because it won't last. And if today you feel lost, ask yourself, what part of me is changing right now, and can I gently walk alongside that change? 9. Act from your values, not for the outcome. There's a kind of tiredness that's hard to name, not from overwork, not from failure, but from constantly trying, just to be seen, just to be enough. Have you ever felt that? You give your all, not from passion, but from the fear of being overlooked. You're kind, not from pure care, but because you don't want to be misunderstood. You take the right path, not because you believe in it, but because that's what others expect of you. I've lived that way. and I felt exhausted, not because I did something wrong, but because I kept doing things right by someone else's standards. But Stoic philosophy taught me something powerful. Don't act for the reward. Act because it aligns with who you are. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your job is to do the right thing. The rest is not your concern." At first glance, that sounds detached, but the older you get, the more you realize that's actually a kind of deep, liberating freedom. When you do something simply because it reflects your values, even if no one claps, even if the outcome isn't what you hoped, you feel peace. I once knew a woman in her 60s who took care of her bedridden mother every day. No recognition, no praise.
Strong men
but
don't
she said,
announce their
"I don't see it
changes.
as a sacrifice.
They execute them
I'm
in
just living
silence."
true to my heart." And you know what? That kind of quiet, unseen action, done without need for applause, is the highest expression of a meaningful life. We can't control results, but we can always choose our reason for showing up. So today, ask yourself, am I doing this from fear or from something I truly believe in? If it's the latter, you're already on the right path. And that, in my view, is worth more than any success. 10. A quiet mind is the strongest fortress. Have you ever felt this way? Nothing's really wrong, work is okay, family's fine, but inside, something feels unsettled, like your mind is a room crowded with noise, regret, guilt, worry about what hasn't even happened yet, and you sigh. Not because you're tired, but because you can't find a quiet place within yourself. In Stoicism, they don't talk about peace as a way of escaping the world. They talk about the mind as a fortress, a place no one can enter unless you let them in. Epictetus once said, "No one can take your peace from you unless you give them permission." I once worked with a successful entrepreneur, polished, punctual, respected, but in a quiet moment he confessed, "I'm afraid of silence, because every time it's quiet, I have to face myself." And that's when healing begins. A quiet mind doesn't come from running away from life. It comes from accepting life and not letting it control you. It's when you hear criticism, but don't let it define you. When you face hardship, but don't let fear carry you away. When you learn to sit still, truly still, and not be afraid of what you hear inside. It's not easy, I know. But in this noisy world, keeping a peaceful mind is one of the most noble forms of strength. Because when you hold stillness inside, no amount of noise outside can shake you. So today, can you take 5 minutes just to sit, breathe slowly, and listen to yourself? Just 5 minutes. That might be the first door back to the quiet, steady place within you, the fortress you forgot you had. Closing, we can't avoid the stormy days. No one lives a life free of pain, confusion, or moments of being lost. But here's the thing. How you face those days, that's what truly defines you. These 10 Stoic lessons I've shared with you, they're not magic. They won't make life easier, but they might make you stronger, quietly, steadily. And if even just one sentence, one idea reached your heart today, then that, I think, is already something worth holding on to. Keep walking your path. Slowly is okay, as long as you walk with awareness, courage, and a soul willing to keep learning. I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget, true peace always begins within.